You guys doing today? Come on in and thumbs up the video if you are my friend. I hope you guys can see me. I don't have on my glasses, so I can't really tell what you guys can see. But I am here today. If you guys don't know, I am having trouble with my Starlink and my videos are not uploading. So the internet is coming out just fine, or the live streams are coming out just fine. So I'm having to record my videos in a live stream form just in order to get my content out to you guys until my videos upload. How many days that's gonna take, I have no idea. But welcome to Vanessa's Van Life Journey. How are you guys doing today? So I put some videos out the other day showing you guys the buildings that I lived in when I was homeless for a number of years. A lot of you had a lot of questions for me. A lot of you wanted to know, like, what led to my homelessness, how did I get homeless, how many years I was homeless. So I'm going to start at the beginning, you guys, because I was homeless several times in my life. And some people are saying, oh, you're a strong woman, you were so creative, and look at the things that you've done back there, and you made that place a home. There were a lot of occurrences that happened to me in my life growing up from a child that made me very resourceful, that made me a go-getter, that made me strong, that made me be creative, because we grew up with not a lot. So I have been homeless several times in my life. Like, my homelessness started when I was a child. Um, I am, uh, what's the word that I'm looking for? I am no longer connected with my family. I walked away from my family in 2007 for a number of reasons. Things that happened to me as a child that people and family members contributed to, and no one is willing to take accountability for it. So, a lot of the things that I am open about and that I talk about, my family may not be willing to acknowledge those things at this point in their life, because I came from a family where there was a lot of cover up, from everything to incest to sexual assault to abuse, drugs, everything. And a lot of people that participated in those things and contributed to those things have not acknowledged those things, and they're not willing to take accountability for them. So a lot of the things that happened to me that I may speak about, that I remember, my family might say I'm lying, and it ain't nothing I could do about that. I feel like we all have to answer to God for our own actions, our own words, our own deeds. And if I'm lying, then I have to answer to God for that. So when I was a child, my mother drug us from pillar to post. Sometimes she left us. Sometimes she left us with relatives, usually my grandmother. Sometimes she stayed gone for years. She didn't know how we were doing. She didn't always call and check on us. And sometimes when we were with her, we were not in the best situations. I remember a time when she was actually living with us. She moved to this strange town that we didn't know anything about, another state, and she was living in an abandoned building. We were living in an abandoned building. The building was dilapidated. The building didn't have any windows. The building was so flat to the ground that it didn't have a floor. The floor was the ground. I was the type of child that always cooked, always cleaned, always did everything. I remember sweeping the floor to the ground and sweeping the dirt outside, but the floor was the dirt. The ground was the floor. Get it? And when we would go to school, people would tease us in the neighborhood because, or the children at school would tease us because they knew that we were living in this abandoned house. Now, I don't know if my mom is going to admit that. I don't know if my other brothers and sisters remember. I'm the oldest of 6 children, 4 living, but it was a true situation, and I remember that. So I was homeless as a child. There were times when my mother lived in houses where I don't know if the landlord was letting her live there or she wasn't paying that much rent. I don't know. There, I grew up in my life when half the times the lights weren't on, half the time the gas wasn't on, half the time we stayed at this house, we were there for a month, we would have to move. We moved so much, you guys, like so much. uh my mama got a little stabler with my other sisters and brothers later on in life, but up until I was like 14, she moved every year. I never finished a school year in one place. And I began to resent that. But I remember this one place we lived in. It was a big old raggedy house. Trees and bushes were growing in the windows. I don't know if she was paying rent or not. It had a big, huge front yard, a big, huge backyard. It was like scary. So many trees in the yard. And I remember we had lights on, but we didn't have water. And we used to put these big trash cans outside to catch water and then fill up all the sinks, fill up all the bathtubs in the house, packing it back and forth. That was my job. I had to do it. And one day the neighbor seen us putting the trash cans outside when it was raining, and she asked me, "Why are y'all putting the trash cans outside to catch water?" And I told her, "We don't have water." I think I caught a whooping for that, telling the lady we didn't have water. But the lady was kind and she said, "I'm going to put my water hose across the fence every day. Y'all get water." And so we started getting water from the neighbor. But that was things that I had to learn to. I was the oldest of 6 children. I combed my sisters and brothers' hair. I bathed them. I took care of them. I changed diapers. So I was like a little woman. I was like a little woman. I cooked, I cleaned, I took care of babies that didn't belong to me, which was my sisters and brothers. Instead of having a baby doll, I had real life dolls, real life children. And so I think the life that I had as my childhood has prepared me for any struggles that come my way, anything that, just to let y'all know, I am recording. My phone just got hot. So if it gets hot again, it may go out, and then I might have to end this live and this be part one, and might have to start over again. But anyway, I had such a rough childhood, you guys. And I'm 55 years old. I had such a rough childhood that I'm prepared for anything that comes my way. Like, I will make it. I will survive. So that, in my opinion, we were homeless when I was a child. We were living in a building, in a house that had no windows, no floors. Children would tease us in the neighborhood. And then we were living in another house where I don't know if she was paying rent or if it was just an abandoned house that we was living in. But we had lights on periodically. We would have lights on. We wouldn't have lights on. We would have running water. So it was usually one or the other. It wasn't usually two at a time, running water and lights at the same time. We usually had one or the other. And also, I got married when I was 16 years old. I soon found out, like the first day I got married, that my husband was an abuser. He hit me, he beat me the first day we got married. And I left him when my son was 11 months old. I went back, told him if I ever have to leave him again, I would never come back again. And I left again when my son was 2 years old. So I got married when I was 16. I left my husband when I was 18, and I never returned. But when I left my husband, I had to go live in a shelter. I came to Houston, which is where I'm from, and I stayed in a shelter for about 3 months, and I was homeless. I was homeless for the 3 months that my son and I were in a shelter. And I was 18 years old trying to figure out how to now deal with being a single mother. But again, I was prepared for that because I had been raising my mother's children my whole life. Up until the time I got married at 16, I had been taking care of my sisters and brothers. I had been nurturing them, teaching them, loving them, cooking for them. So this was something that I was again equipped for. And after becoming a teenage single mother, I was determined not to repeat the cycles that I seen my mother do, but I fell into those cycles because I'm all by myself and I'm trying to do everything by myself. So I did fall into those cycles, fell into, my mother didn't teach me anything. She didn't teach me to learn from her mistakes. She didn't teach me not to let a man physically abuse me, not to let a man disrespect me. She didn't teach me my worth, my value. So I'm out here in the world at the age of 18, all alone by myself with a child, having to learn the hard lessons the hard way. I was green, didn't know much of nothing. And so I went from abusive situation to abusive situation, and it really weighed down on my self esteem. I became depressed. I still was a go getter, but I was depressed and I still was green in many instances. And one situation led to another where one relationship failed after the other, one domestic violence situation after the other. And I always, since the age of like 10, 12 years old, as far as I could remember, I always had a desire that I wished I was never born. I always had a desire to not be here anymore. I was sexually assaulted as a child, and I always just would cry and wish that I wasn't here anymore. So I always fantasized about not being here anymore. And then with all the bad things that kept happening to me in my life, I fantasized more and more about not being here anymore until I tried to make that happen. And I tried to make that happen 3 times in my life, and I was unsuccessful each time. The last time I tried to make it happen, I was the most successful, and God chose for me to continue to be here. I want to make sure I make this clear in my story. I have never been a person that has ever taken any type of drugs in my life. I was never strung out on drugs. I was never a prostitute. I was never an alcoholic. I was never a woman of the world and on the streets. My homelessness totally came about from depression and not wanting to be here anymore. And I fell into a very, very, very dark place of never receiving love in my life, never being taught to love myself, never being taught to not let people walk over me. And I was so tired of being used, abused, walked on, mistreated, cursed out, battered, and abused. I was so tired of giving everybody else my all. I was so tired of loving everybody else and being a doormat my whole life. And so I just wanted out of here. And I owned my own townhome, and I became behind on my payments on my townhome was fully paid for, but I still had to pay maintenance fees. I went to help out a friend, a relative for months, and when I returned back home, the first time in my adult life, my lights were off. The first time in my adult life, I opened up my refrigerator, there's nothing in it. the first time in my adult life, I found myself in a very, very, very dark place. And again, I didn't want to be here anymore. And I had a court date to show up in court to fight for my property. I didn't even want to fight for it. I had friends that said, Vanessa, we'll pay the fees up for you. I didn't want to receive that money from them. I just was tired and I didn't care. And I went to my vehicle, got in my vehicle, and drove away from my property that I owned. And I drove away and left. And eventually I ended up at the building that you guys seen with the permission of the owner, stayed there for years. But back there in that little building is where it all started, where when I really got there, I was still in a dark, 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 dark place. I just wanted to lay into bed, not eat, and not exist anymore. And I began that process of not existing anymore. And God began to talk to me and speak to me and let me know that I was loved, and let me know that if nobody else loved me, He loved me. Let me know that I was a beautiful person. Let me know that I was beautifully, wonderfully, awesomely made. Let me know that I was chosen by Him. Let me know that the world needed me. Let me know that I couldn't give up on myself because He hadn't given up on me. And I didn't believe the things He was telling me. I wanted to believe Him, but I didn't believe Him, and I just continued to lay there. I continued to talk to Him through, because I was living in this building with no lights, no glass, and no water. The one thing that I tried to keep on was a cell phone, a little old-timey flip cell phones. And I had went to a friend of mine's house, didn't know anything about social media, Facebook, or none of that. And her daughter said, Miss Vanessa, I'm going to open up you a Facebook account. I want you to play Farmville with me. So I would go over to their house every day and play Farmville with them. I was getting out of the building to be around other people because I felt like I was going to do something to myself if I didn't. And from that, I found out about Facebook, and then God spoke to me and told me to open up a prayer page. And I opened up the prayer page, and every day, every morning, I would charge my phone in my car because I didn't have lights. I didn't have a generator. I didn't have none of that. And so I would charge my phone up in the car all day, and then at night I could have a phone if I needed to call 911 or whatever. But I would post these prayers on Facebook, how I was feeling. I would talk to God and be letting Him know I was hopeless. I didn't want to be here and all of this stuff. And I was just posting all of these prayers on Facebook. And next thing you know, thousands of people started following me on Facebook. And I didn't have money. I didn't have anything to eat. And one day, God told me to get up. And God spoke to me. He told me on several occasions throughout my life, I have blessings waiting on you every day. You have to get up and go get them. And I didn't have anything to eat. And I wasn't going to sell my soul to Satan for a meal. I did have family and relatives in the neighborhood and nearby, but I was through with my family. I didn't want to have anything to do with my family. I don't like asking anybody for anything. And God told me to go to the store, go to CVS, go to Walmart, go to CVS. First, I went to CVS. I scanned my little CVS card. Ticket came out for a free drink. And a ticket came out for some free cookies or something. And I was like, huh? I had never gotten anything before free, and I didn't know anything about couponing. So I got this little ticket to get a free drink and a free snack. I went found a drink, I went found a snack, took it to the register, got it for totally 100% free. And I was like, what's going on? Sat in my car, ate the snack, ate the drink, went back to the building, and that's what I had to eat that day. And the next day, God told me to get up, go back to CVS. And I'm like, okay, I scan my card again. I get the same drink, I get the same snack. I go get it, I eat, I go back to the building. I think I did that the whole week long. And then I said in my, I don't know what kind of car I had at the time. I might have had a van, or I don't know. I don't know what kind of car I had at the time. And I was like, is something up with this? What is up with this? So I sat in the vehicle and I was like typing in couponing. And I just sat there in the, I think it was a van. I sat there in the van all night long watching couponing videos and finding out about couponing. And then I was like, oh, I need to start couponing. These people are getting all this stuff for free. And next thing you know, I started couponing. Next thing you know, God has breathed life back into me. Next thing you know, I'm up and I'm decorating the building. I'm going around finding free stuff, uh, finding old paint that was laying around and painting the building, decorating the building, going on Craigslist and finding things that people are throwing away, going and picking them up, bringing them back and decorating the building, the cabinets that I had in there. I got from somebody that was throwing them away. Just everything was just coming together, and I started caring about myself. I started caring about my surroundings. I started letting God show me that life was worth living. I started letting God talk to me and convince me not to give up, and I can't do this. And that is a part of, that's how I ended up. A lot of people want to know, how did you end up being homeless? I ended up being homeless, suffering from severe depression and not wanting to be here anymore, and walking away from life and thinking I was walking into the distance to go and exist no more. And God did not let that be my ending. I have a saying, and I say it all the time. You just heard me say it a few minutes ago. But God spoke to me and told me one day, Vanessa, I haven't given up on you, and you can't give up on yourself. And so the last time I tried to non-exist, God didn't let that happen. This time I'm contemplating trying not to non-exist, and He did not let that happen. And not only did He not let it happen, He took me through a purging, a rebuilding, a remaking of myself to I became whole. I was so broken. I was so broken. I was so confused. I was a hot mess. And I didn't know what love was. I had never been taught love. I had never been given love. I didn't know what it was. And God began to nurse me back to health and teach me love. And He taught me that I didn't need nobody. He taught me to let go of what's hurting you the most. Your family is hurting you the most. Relationships are hurting you the most. The pain of the past is hurting you the most. He taught me to give it all to Him and let Him carry the cross and let Him carry me and let Him love me and let Him teach me what love truly was. And those years that I stayed in that building, I gained self respect, I gained self confidence, I gained a true relationship with God. I found out who He was. I fell in love with Him more than I had ever been in love with Him before in my life. I realized that all the things, all the people, and all the places and things that I was trying to hold on to, that they were not worth my peace, my joy, my happiness. They weren't giving me peace and joy and happiness. And God showed me that I needed to let go of all of those things. You know, the Bible say, he who loses, I'm not saying this right. If you know the correct saying or know the correct scripture, post it in the comments. But if you lose your soul, you'll gain your soul. If you lose everything, you'll gain your soul. And God had to show me that I had to be willing to lose everything, walk away from everything, people, places, and things, in order to gain something that I never knew existed. I had to gain a love and a respect and a relationship with Him and a relationship with myself in order to become whole. I never thought wholeness existed. I never knew what wholeness was. And God used that time in that building as dilapidated, as broke, as hopeless as I was. He used that time to show me who I was. He used that time to show me who He was. He used that time to show me that He was my provider. And He did that. This is part one. Part three, I don't know, of me going into that. I have to go slow with this story because I want you to comprehend the importance of, I'm going to give all credit, praise, and glory to God always in my life because He's the only reason why I'm here. I am a Christian. I'm not telling you you need to believe in God, you need to trust in Him, but I really don't know how you're going to make it if you don't. Everything else, you've tried everything else. You've tried drugs, you've tried alcohol, you've tried people. You put your faith and your trust in man. Everything else is failed. Everything else has let you down. What else is there for you to try? What do you have to lose if you try Jesus and it don't work out? What do you have to lose? I tried Him. I gave Him a try. And I let Him prove to me and show me who He was. And I would never go back. I would never, ever, 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 never turn my back on Him for anything, for anyone. And I will sing His praises from the mountaintop. No matter what I have or don't have in life, I'm going to always give Him the praise and the honor and the glory. And I'm going to always make the best of what I have. I'm going to always take what he has given me and I'm going to make it shine like pure gold, because that's the gift that he's instilled in me to be able to do that. So I hope this video will encourage you, will motivate you, will inspire you, no matter what your situation is. If you're homeless, if you're broke, if you're busted, if you can't be trusted, if you have a past history where people don't trust you, if you used to be a drug addict, if you used to be a prostitute, your past is your past. Let God restore you. Don't let the devil keep reminding you of your past to make you submit back to your past. You could do all things through Christ who strengthens you, but you have to 100% give it all to him. You have to 100% put your faith and your trust in him. You have to 100% call on him. You have to 100% believe in him. You have to 100% have faith the size of a mustard seed. And you have to let him carry you. You have to let him teach you the things that you weren't taught. You have to let him unteach you the things that you were taught that were wrong. He's the potter and you are the clay. Let him mold you and make you and put you back together again and make you whole and complete. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope this gives more clarity to you. If you have any questions, any comments, leave them in the comment bar below. I will come back with the next part of all of this to inspire you, encourage you. This was a lot that I went through in this building. This was a lot that I went through in life. It cannot be summed up in one video. It cannot be summed up in one chapter. Like, this is a book. Everybody keeps telling me to write a book. It's coming. But I want to make these videos. This is a audio book, a visual book. I want to make these videos to encourage somebody that might need this right now, right here, today. Again, if these stories are encouraging and motivating to you, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and hit always. If you know someone else that these stories can help, pass it along to them. Share it on your community post. Share it on your channel. Share it on your social medias. Tell them to come subscribe to Vanessa's Van Life Journey on YouTube. And I will see you guys in the next video. And if you want to support the channel in any shape, form, or fashion, my Cash App and my PayPal are in the description box below. Thanks for watching. Bye now. Vanessa's Van Life Journey. I am Vanessa, and I live in a van, and she's out there. Her name is Treasure. This is my new tiny home storage that I'm in Quartzsite, Arizona. I'll talk to you guys later. I appreciate you and love each and every one of you. Thanks for watching. Bye now.